Burn! Burn with the fires of change! Scream your hymns to Tzeentch!
This sounds like every holiday I went on growing up. I'm not equipped for the summertime. Anything above sort of like 18 degrees, I'm like, a bit warm in it, lads. Let's have some shade. So that was my experience. How are you doing, Lewis? You're back. It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. I'm also a pasty white boy, so I know exactly how you feel, Ed. I can't go anywhere
I actually
near
tan really nicely. I just don't like being outside in the direct sunlight anyway.
100%. I'm like a vampire, which makes sense, really.
Fair enough. We've got some people in the chat already. Krieghammer was here an hour ago. Very hyped for this one. Excellent stuff. Good to see you, Krieghammer. And Anubis here as well. Possibly the most accomplished Skaven player in the world. If you want to hear more about his list, join our Discord down below. He does talk about it. Fantastic stuff. So we're here to talk about a medley of things. We were going to talk about the results from the Capital City Bloodbath, and then I couldn't find the results page. So if you have it, shoot me a message on Discord or something, and I'll pull it up, and we can have a brief chinwag. But this is going to be talking about how I've accidentally signed up for 3 events over 5 weeks. Lewis has signed up for 2 events over 2 weeks, which is also pretty good. We're going to talk about Lewis's event pack, because that is out now for the November event. And just some general chinwaggery, I'm sure we'll get through. Oh, we've got some great Discord questions as well to answer.
Started flowing in, which is good. We like it.
They really have. Yeah, this is a great episode to have some good, thought-provoking podcast questions, because we've not got anything as structured. So, first of all, I would just want to say thank you to everyone. This podcast and everything else on the channel is brought to you by you and the support that you give us. Big thanks to our Grail Knight tier supporters, Morpheus Gaming, Mechanite and Krieghammer. The first time I haven't fucked that up live. Don't forget to check out the Close Order Discord link below. You don't have to be a member to join, but there are some exclusive channels, such as the Pick My Army channel, where the Grail Knight supporters vote on one of the armies I play each month. And it's not a listed benefit, but I am just working my way through an offering if the Grail Knight supporters want to play against me. So, played against Morpheus last month, and this month I'm playing Krieghammer. In fact, I'm playing him on Thursday, and I haven't written the list yet, buddy, but I will do that at a point in time before Thursday. It'll be a good list. I know roughly what I want to put into the list. I just haven't, put the nuts and bolts together. But yeah, I also haven't put the nuts and bolts together to what I want to play at any of the events I'm going to. So...
when's your first one, Ed?
This weekend. So this weekend I'm probably going to play Skaven. I have bought some of the club-footed, awful old school Night Runners, because I need to replace like the 350 points that I was spending on a Warlock Engineer, some Plague, Poisonwind Globadiers, and the Jezzails, because I was super underwhelmed by them. So replacing those with something else. That's the plan, but I think it's going to be 24 more Gutter Runners with slings. So that's what I'm going with there. So there is also a plan. I could just play Orcs and Goblins. I could play, some version of that. That would be fine. I'd be okay with. Maybe I'll do that. List lock isn't until Thursday, so I've got time to.
Do you think you're going to try and play the same army 3 times? I would imagine by the end of the 3rd event, you're going to be pretty hot on all of your rules and getting that as good as it can be.
Tell you what, let's get to that in a second, because I have some thoughts about what I might want to take to LGT at the end of the month, and then the TSN event on the 5th of October as well. I'll probably just take the same army to that one, because there's not much downtime between, and I'll have to go to work. Garrett says, I've been doing a lot of list building, thinking about an ogre list that could do with something. I like the Slaughtermaster with the Tenderizer and Illusion. Someone was talking about that in Discord. Was that yourself, Garrett? Because I remember seeing that. If it is you, the Death Star list that you posted there, I do like.
Yeah, I think it's a good way to play ogres, I think. It does rely on people not just ignoring that unit, because it's not particularly fast, but...
if all the points are in it.
Yeah, and it definitely kills whatever it touches.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't die. Ed Milton says, bring in Nomadic War, we can have a pig off. Ed stopped playing Empire after I played him with Nomadic War. I don't want to say that I'm the reason that he's running it, because I'm not the reason.
Terrorized him into it.
No, the reason is he can't roll artillery dice without having a bad time. Do let me know if you want to borrow 10 pigs. You can do that. That's not a problem. Krieghammer says, how many are at each of the events? All of them are 5 rounds, so it's 3 2-day events. 2 at the TSN Arena, and 1 of them is down in London for LGT. Anub says Orcs and Goblins.
15 games of Warhammer within a couple of weeks. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack's here. We have a Skaven off. Yeah, that is an option. I am thinking of stealing your 12 model units of Gutter Runners with slings. They're a solid one to go for. Perfect. But yeah, what have you been up to recently, mate? It's been a while since we've had a proper chat.
Yeah, it has. I have been slowly plugging away at the LGT list. So I think when we last spoke, I'd just come off a game into the Bretonnians, which it got okay, but again, it was another situation where my Necromancer got himself killed, and army started crumbling away. For those of you that have watched my battle report on the channel with Chris, where my Necromancer also gets killed, it's a theme that runs throughout my games, even when I'm playing slow armies, but it was literally a unit of skeletons that killed the Necromancer, so spoiler alert. Which they're not the fastest unit in the world, Ed, if you weren't aware.
They're really not.
So for the fact that they got all the way across the board and killed my Necromancer was not a shining example of how to protect him. So I figured the best way to protect him is put him on a Mortis engine. Does obviously bump the points up ever so slightly, by about 200.
Best 200 points you can spend, though.
Well, yeah, I thought so. So I've been building my Mortis engine, and as a general rule, that kit is a bastard. I don't understand. It's too big for its base. So width-wise, okay. But I posted a photo in the Discord. It's on 100 by 50 mil base, but it's probably 200 mil long.
Okay.
So it sticks right out towards the. Like, you can put it like on the front of its base or set it right back, but there's going to be a massive overhang, which means no one can charge me, which I feel like is a great solution for the problem I have getting killed by combat res. No one's allowed to charge me because they can't get into base contact, so I'm going to call that a result. And that's how I'll be playing that rule at the LGT. Don't worry, everybody. I will be cheating my way through 5 games.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going for this one, but it sounds like you need this advice. So More Robert Wars says, if you're struggling to decide what to play, I suggest playing well. Yeah, that would be, if you're losing your Necromancer every time, I think that might be the way to go there, buddy. That's something that I could recommend.
Yes.
Perfect. I guess speaking of things that you've done, you've also painted, and I'm just gonna whack this on the screen. I haven't bothered to do it in any particular way, but you have done. Is this your spiritual vortex?
My spiritual vortex. So we'll have seen on previous episodes me putting together these models. I took the Soul Nighthaunt or Soulblight Gravelord's endless spells from Age of Sigmar, and I bought a base that's the same as the 5-inch blast template for my spiritual vortex. I have given my Necromancer on his Mortis engine the ability to take 5 spells. So despite the fact that 4 games in a row I've not rolled this up and not been able to use the model, I'm hoping now with 5 spells I am going to roll it at least once over the course of the weekend and get to use this instead of the template. But this was a nice distraction from building the Mortis engine, which was winding me up. So I got this painted instead. I
love... we're just going to have that left on the screen, thanks. I blame the back-end tech guy. The back-end tech guy is me. I love that sort of scheme, the ethereal. So one of the many things that I've been toying around with as an idea is that I want to do like a Headless Horseman style army. Nice. So maybe have the character be like the traditional Headless Horseman, and then just have everything else be sort of like Wraith style painted. So I want to do Bretonnians, but use the undead models. That's the thinking there. And I had this idea 4 months ago, bought a few bits to get it started. They are all still in their box. It's not a pile of shame; it's a pile of potential because I haven't started the.
That sounds like a really good idea. I think
this is a content pile. Now that I'm doing this for YouTube, it's not a pile of shame. It's a potential video, and that's
a business venture, is what it is.
A business venture, yeah. Scrivo's in the chat. Good to see you, Scrivo. Says blame the tech guy. That's coming from years of being blamed as the tech guy, not by me, but good to have you here. So, What's your list? Give us a quick run through on the list you're taking to LGT, because you've got just the sort of top down. Doesn't have to be sort of item by item, but give us the big blows.
Yeah, so I am taking the Master Necromancer on the Mortis engine, obviously. I have given it the ability to take the 5th spell, Didn't quite have enough points to give it the where you could choose your spells, so just give it the extra one and hopefully I roll the right numbers.
Yeah.
And I've given it the 4-up ward save, which obviously makes it stupid. But I figure even if you fail it, it just kind of stumbles forward, which is kind of what it's going to do anyway. So I'm not that annoyed by the stupidity.
If stupid, you can't cast spells, right?
Can you not?
Is that correct? Someone let us know in chat, because I'm just assuming
someone
here.
could tell me, I might change my mind on that because I can't cast any spells.
Yeah.
Because I will fail it. I will have the reroll from the BSB, but I will fail it every single bloody time.
Just don't give it the 4-up. Just give it the regular Talisman of Protection and just position behind hills using the Van Hels's Dance Macabre. That's probably your. I don't even think it's called Van Hels's the move. Whatever.
Hellish Figure is the extra move one. Which I don't know whether if you've got reserve move, can you use it if you fail stupidity test? That's the other question for the chat as well, to go rules diving for me.
Oh, there's some interactions.
But if I give it the Talisman of Protection, I can't then put that on the dragon, which is my.
Oh, I do forgot that you're running a dragon.
I do forgot the dragon. Never forget the dragon. He runs around not doing a huge amount, but looks good. So she's on a zombie dragon. That's my vampire lord. And she's a tooled up dragon. She's got the Dread Lance this time. So she can get some good charge rolls.
Yeah.
I've taken the White Lord for the BSB. So he's got the War Banner. So he's got the extra combat res, which should help the 22 Graveguard he's going in with shields and hand weapons. They've got the Drakenhof banner, so they've got a 5-up regen as well. So they'll be running around, hopefully not dying. Big block of 30 skeletons. So just hand weapons, shields, and a command. Then we've got the 5 dire wolves, just as they come. 1 Terrorgeist, obviously, because I like my dragons.
Yep.
And 5 Blood Knights. So they are kitted out with all of the gubbins, which makes them a lot of points for the report.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see more Blood Knights in there, I think they get exponentially better, the more in the unit. But the question is, do you have time to paint another 5? For those of you who've somehow missed Lewis's painting, Lewis used to be a commissioned painter, and does very high quality work, as you may have seen. With love and attention is what we'll say there.
I've always been wondering with the Blood Knights whether to run. If I was going to run another 5 or so, I could probably, if I take some upgrades off, might be able to get 10. Would you run them as 2 units of 5 or 1 unit?
No, 1 unit of 10. I don't want it to ever get to below 1 model. Yeah. If it's 1 model, it's going to be 10. That's the secret there. Creekhammer says, how many screams? Is it 3? Banshee, Terrorgeist, and the...
Just the Terrorgeist and the Mortis Engine, so just the 2.
Oh, did you have to drop a Banshee to get
so with the Master Necromancer is 440 points, the Vampire and the Dragon is 450 points, and then the BSB is 107. So I've basically 997 points of characters.
Yeah. So for context, Lewis likes to make his own list style and typically does quite well with it. So this is not criticism of you personally, but it's interesting that in this case, the less optimal choice is taking a Lord on Dragon. I love that. That's the point the vampire counts out. It's like, if you want to make a more sort of cutter competitive list, you should take the Lord and Dragon out so you can have more mind bullets. That's probably the way to go. I think you would,
if you were going to go down the Scream route, you'd probably swap skeletons and maybe even the Graveguard for zombies.
Yeah.
And then just kit yourself out with 2 Mortis Engines, get as many Banshees in, get rid of the Blood Knights, get another Terrorgeist in. Then you could probably run around with 6 Screams and then just loads of zombies to just die slowly enough that you can scream everything to death.
You have very, very much just described what I would expect to see at least a couple of people playing at LGT. Although I don't think it's going to be a dominant force in the meta. People seem to have moved away from it. There's a lot of other stuff that's really good. We've had confirmation that you can cast after failing stupidity. Very
don't scare me like that, Edward.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Still, please don't do it. Find anything else. Creekhammer says, any chance of hobby videos in the future? What sort of things are you thinking, buddy? Because I have in the tank a converting AOS Skaven to Old World video with some time-lapse painting. And you know what? I've just stalled on that one because it takes fucking ages. And I've got a really lovely conversion here that I need to put paint on. And I just haven't found the time. So there is that in the pipeline that I need to pull my finger out on. But other thoughts for hobby videos are welcome. we've got Radanis the Bold says, looking forward to my first Old World tournament in October. Thanks for helping me understand what I might be up against. Oh, you're very welcome. Hopefully you have a great time. Which event are you going to? Tom Cardi says, Painter Warhound. So there's a little peek behind the curtains here. It's funny, I was halfway through writing you a message this morning, Tom, and I didn't finish it and didn't send it to you. So I've got a Warhound here. There is the first sponsored video will be coming at some point, TM. We're going to look at that, but I've got some more interesting ideas than what I was thinking originally, so I'll shoot you a message tomorrow when I am awake again. And Morphe says, how many runners will LGT get, do you think, ballpark? Well, it depends. If we both take them, there will be a grand total of 77. Hold on, maths. 80, I think. You'll take, whatever. You'll take about 40, I'll take about 40, something like that.
So
and no one else will take Skaven if you...
So I completely missed that. I thought he was talking about how many actual running people would be there, because
there'll be at least one. Lewis, one of the other things Lewis does is he runs marathons. Is a very accomplished physical.
A singular marathon,
well.
never again. To the half.
Yeah, for context, it's gutter runners, the Skaven model.
But if anyone is interested in the LGT, it is at the Lee Valley Athletics Centre, which is
That's
a
true.
great running venue.
It's always funny because there's always a few people still there just to do their Saturday, Sunday sports, and the looks that you get. It's always it's never judging. It's always very curious. The first year I went, rocked up with my 40k army on a tray, and we stood. I think, who was I with? I might have been with Rob Kimpton. We would just stood and talked to the security guard for about 10 minutes because I was like, so how does this work? What is this? Are you really genuinely curious? It's a really good venue. I really like it. It's very open, but I've never done one of the side games there, so I'm hoping that I'm not sort of shoved off to, one of the corners away from all of the exciting action, away from the food trucks and the fresh air, more excitingly. Jack says, how many entrants capped at 64? It's a shame you're not going, buddy. It would be a good one to see you at. So. Let's just quickly run through the options, because I'm not going to do what this isn't a you get to vote on my army, but I am interested on the input. So the options are I will potentially Skaven. I'm enjoying Skaven. I think they're good. I think when I go down to London, there's going to be a lot of dragons there, a lot of quite aggressive armies, and Skaven are pretty okay against that. You just feed them 1,000 point your army and try and kill more than that with the Gutter Runner star. So that's a pretty solid shout. I was thinking as well, I've got a double dragon list for Dark Elves.
Don't be that guy, Ed. Don't be that guy.
Well, it's Dark Elves, though. So, I'd be playing a less played faction. I think they're solid. Yeah. I've done a little bit of work on those. I don't know. I started painting them, and they're not bringing me any joy, so I've put them down with the goal to do something about them later on. But, yeah. We'll see. Then I could go Bretonnians, because I think there's a really fun list that I could... by that, I mean, just a good list. Lots of Peg Knights, Bretonnians. But, the army content side of things would be fun there. And then there's also Wolves of the Sea. Now, someone on YouTube, one of the YouTube commenters, I want to say it's Lol, who is also active on Discord, shouted this out. If it's not you, my apologies. Someone very smart did come up with the fact that you could do a Skaven army that isn't Skaven. It's Wolves of the Sea. So Wolves of the Sea is the new Chaos detachment. Yeah. But you can use Plague Center Bearers as Berserkers with flails. Perfect. This works out perfectly. Hellpit Abominations as your gigantic spawn.
Right. I'm with you.
Straight, just 1-to-1. Rat Ogres as your Skin Wolves. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. If you want to go for a caster on Chariot, you could do the Screaming Bell. Yep. If you wanted to do a dragon, what I was thinking was potentially the Plague Furnace, but with 2 of the Nurgle Rotflies, or whatever they're called, the demons that are being ridden. Just have 2 of those carrying the furnace, and that's my dragon. I think that would be a hell of an army. Matt says LGT, if it feels like the tournament, if you ever do one, that you go max trench and sweat. That's typically it. But I've kind of I've gone to LGT for the last 3 years in a row, and I went my first year. It was my first actual sort of 9th edition tournament post COVID. That was great, and I just went to sort of have fun and enjoy myself. Then the year after that, I went to win. I was very sad that I didn't get the 5-0. I felt like I could have done it, but didn't quite. And then the year after that, I think I just played something I wanted to play. And the second year's the year I had the least fun. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm at the point in Old World where I want to really sweat. Might save that for international tryouts if that comes around at some point.
So is that going to happen then? Do we think? Are we going to be getting position in WTC or?
Oh, I'm sure there will be. Yeah, Anubis linked me, an event in chat which is called WTC, but I don't know how officially it's WTC because I don't think it's done by the people who do the 40k or Age of Sigmar. I don't even know if they're the same people who do it. So, yeah. But no, let us know. And if you're watching this back, leave us a comment down below as to what you think I should play. I'm very on the fence. I think the Skaven army is fun, but also it'd be the most expensive, or I'd have to fix my 3D printer, which is like so much effort, and I just can't. It's been broken for like 3 months, and I just can't be bothered. Yeah. I really should get around to it, but it's one of those where it's like I could do that, or I could sit down and record a video, and I've got to paint an army, and then, now we're in September. I was like, I should fix this. It's June. I should really get this sorted. But yeah. Oh, he says no. It's not the official WTC. Yeah, that's fair enough. International play is international play, so it'll be good to see that when it comes around. More Robot Wars content says spent the last 2 months painting a Dark Elf Dragon of characters that sparks joy when it's finished. Yeah, that's fair. I just haven't been jazzed about. Maybe it's the paints scheme that I've started off. I've gone with like a metallic green and then some sort of drab green for the flesh, but yeah, I don't know. I'll leave it. It'll percolate. I'm not taking it to this weekend. I need to paint 24 gutter runners, the big ham-fisted ones. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's the sort of thing. If you enjoy the Skaven, then and that's the vibe you want from the events, then that seems like a sensible choice. And actually,
Skaven are fun because no one knows what they do. And then I win games with them, and people are like,
shit.
Why does that work? It's because it's a Rube Goldberg machine.
And if you do well, everyone will be like, wow, Skaven. And you'll get much numbers will go up.
Yeah, vote of confidence there. Run a solid all-round greenskin list and go for a win. We know you can do it. That's very kind of you to say. I think if I was going for a win, I'd probably go for Brett's as opposed to Orcs. I think Bretonnians are the most threatening list. Maybe New Chaos. I haven't really. So have you looked at the New Chaos rules very much? Have you seen?
Yeah, I've watched your long kind of video with the guy whose name I can't remember now.
His cousins.
But that was
interesting. Shout out, lovely chaps.
Yep, that was it. Which I very much enjoyed. The mounted one looks a bit silly. I'm not sure that will necessarily see competitive play with having to double up all of the units.
Yeah.
I like the Marauder one. I like it a lot.
I really like the Marauder one. I think it's good. I think it's probably, in my eyes, the default way to play Chaos. The only problem is you can't fit a level 4 caster and a Dragon Lord in unless you go Golrock. And Golrock is a level 4. You have to pick Dark Magic. You're less tanky, or you can't hide them as well. So he can just be sniped out, and also he has no way of like guaranteeing certain spells, and it's a lore I'm not excited about for him. So
I've been right both to do well.
I think I feel like you feel like something's missing if you haven't got a level 4 caster just in general, and the Chaos Lord and Dragon's very good. I have been writing a list based off one that Ors played against me. Ors, the table judge of the Square-based online tournament. That'll be coming out probably Sunday. I think I will record that battle report and get that one out. But he played an interesting Wolves of the Sea list where it was just MSU as much as possible ran towards me. And just building off that, so, Demon Prince, level 4 caster. I've gone a little bit silly with it. You take the full plate that gives you +1 toughness and also +1 initiative, I think. And then you you mark a Nurgle and you go Demonology as well. And between that, you can get up to T8.
Brilliant.
It falls, so you become T7 at the end of your turn. The T8 is only until the end of your turn. And the the Nurgle spell is a remains in place, so that can be dispelled. So you can't tie up a dragon for a lot of turns, but there might be something there where you can tie them up to an extent. So
yeah, like once or twice, and that might just give you the control, or get to a point when the dragon has not done enough over the course of the game to make its points back, or feel like it's been a useful contributor into the game. So
yeah,
you've only got to do it a couple of turns.
yeah, I think it's interesting. Skinwolves I really like. So basically, the list is
So many attacks.
Yeah, the list is you go for a tooled up Warrior of Chaos, like a 5 model unit. So you'd give them either Mark of Khorne, hand weapon shield. So you've got 3 attacks, strength 4, AP 1, or Mark of Slaanesh and a halberd.
Yeah.
So you're at initiative 5. Either's fine. I think I like Slaanesh more. I think Khorne is better. So I think, despite arguing fervently that you should go Slaanesh, I think you probably go Khorne and you spend 5 points on a Charm Shield for a 1-up 5-up ward. 1-time 5-up ward, I should say. And that's just as near as makes no difference, guarantees you first turn, except into like maybe Swordmasters or something like that. There are a couple of armies that you're scared about, but most of the time you'll do well with that one. And then you just go 3 units of Huskarls, because you give them Flails and Mark of Khorne because of violence, but they come with drilled, and they come with drilled, and they're fast cavalry, and open order. So you put them in drilled. They're 8-inch move. You march them 24 inches. You've got 3 units that march 24 inches, and then they get a free wheel at the end. So you can angle yourself correctly, and then next turn you'll be able to charge out of marching column because of drilled. You take a unit of Skinwolves, and the Demon Prince is Demonology. So you make sure that every game you're going to Steed of Shadows them 24 inches up the board. So that's 4 units that are 24 inches up the board. You've got 3 units of Marauder Horsemen, who are worse than Huskarls, but they are core and cheaper. And they just march the straight 16 inches forward, so they're still in charge range.
Yeah.
Unless your opponent's backlining. But there's not much, And then there's just like 5 or 6 units of Berserkers that just go 10 inches up the board, and they're there to sort of like mop up anything that survives the first hit. Oh, and the Demon Prince goes up as well, because you give him the item, the 35-point magic weapon that is strength user, AP2, every wound you do increases your cast on the next cast or dispel.
Yep.
I thought at first you had to do assailments first, but I don't think it says. I think you can just do them at any time. I'd need to see how that one's ruled correctly before I committed, but I think you can go in, slap with loads of attacks, and then cast an assailment with like +3 to cast. Then get another +3 on your next cast or dispel, which will be a dispel, so you just get to dispel something else. I think that's really fun.
Yeah, because the assailment doesn't replace your attacks, does it? It's in addition to your attacks. So I don't know that there's a reason why you just
I
do
think
your
it's
attacks and then do your spell.
very unclear in the rules. I have looked, but I haven't come
That
down.
doesn't sound like this rulebook, Ed. I will not have it.
Chaos Hero says Brett's just won the Nova Ard Boys in the USA, no level 4s either. So I'm not going to spend time ragging on the Nova Open. I will say I think Bretonnians could have won even if they hadn't changed the rules, but they were playing with a rules pack that was significantly not Old World. There was a lot of restrictions in there, so it's hard to take any results from there and apply them to the rest of the game where people are playing without sort of very restrictive and odd comps. Lee Evans says, see you in October then, looking forward to it. You too, buddy. Yeah, come and say hi. It'll be it's always nice to meet people. Also says, given that they both happen on your initiative step, you think the assailment and attacks are simultaneous, apart from stuff with strikes last and strike first. That makes sense. Says, but I'll be honest, one of my resident go-to rules question asker or answers. So thanks for fixing that.
I'm assuming the inference from that is because they're simultaneous, you wouldn't get the buff to your spells.
Yeah, but if you have somehow given yourself strike first, that doesn't affect spells as per the FAQ. So you could somehow strike first, then get the bonus, then do the assailment spell at initiative step. Yeah, there's probably something in there that we can do. Well, we've kind of just rambled a little bit for a while. Do you want to have a quick look through your rules pack that you've written and now released?
Let's do it, yeah. So this is for my second Fantasy Slam, Saffron Fantasy Slam. We are doing another one-day event. So it's just a three-game, one-day RTT. We have just released all the dates for next year. We've got 5 GTs next year, so we're going up to 2-day events next year. 28 players, so decent size GTs. So very much looking forward to that. And I think this event pack is going to be the event pack I would like to use for next year. So this RTT is going to be a very good kind of trial bed for how the mission structure, etc., is going to work. One of the main pieces of feedback I got from the first Fantasy Slam is that the base missions in the rulebook are a bit dull after a while. So I wanted to jazz them up ever so slightly, but also not go too far the other way. And we've already mentioned all the comp rules and stuff at Nova, which do change the game somewhat. So trying to play within the confines of what's already in the book, but doing it in a slightly more engaging way. So let me just... Whoa, that went quicker than I thought. Let me just scroll down. This is great.
I know
great.
You've sent this to me, but I don't remember what it is. I think I've only given it like a cursory look, so I'm very interested to see what changes you've made. That'll be...
Right, here we go. So tournament missions. So we've got 3 missions. First thing I wanted to do with deployment zones is put some diagonal ones in, because I think they changed the dynamic of the game slightly. They give you a little bit more width, especially on... It feels like you don't get much more width, but actually when you're playing on a 60 by 44s, it just gives you a little bit more kind of ability to kind of maneuver around, because if you're, say, if you've got something fast in this top corner here, you've effectively already in line with your opponent's deployment zone, so it's quite easy to get some of that flanking and that sort of thing. So I want to see how that works with the diagonal movement, with diagonal deployment, sorry. And our first scenario is going to be breakpoint. So I've changed the deployment zone, obviously, from the book one, but the special rule is breakpoint. Now, this is the actual version of breakpoint, not Ed's version of breakpoint. Where
I was fervently against breakpoint when I initially thought that you lost 25% of your army, and I was like, oh, that's...
Yeah, so get down to 25% and the game ends. We've just had Orsa's just come in, loves diagonal deployment, but highly recommends capping the breakpoint scenario to 6 turns. Endless games in tourneys that go to round time on that scenario before. So
that makes sense.
That's definitely a thing. So what I tend to do in my events is I'll give my players a 15-minute warning, and at that point I will say no new battle rounds. So they've got 15 minutes to finish whatever turn they're on, so both players have the same amount of time to play.
Matthew says it's an awful lot of maths. I do agree, but it might be something that we can just get people to put into their army list, and that'll make things a little easier if they come in knowing what their breakpoints are.
Knowing their unit strength, definitely.
Yeah, that would be ideal.
So that's the one. I'll take that on board. Also, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about capping the game length. I think the games I've played of breakpoint, normally once my necromancer dies, I fold quite quickly after that. So I don't know. I think I probably average 6 turns.
This scenario, it never goes that long. I massively fuck up every game, and then it just finishes. I'm sure that'll happen for everyone else, though. It's okay.
Most definitely. So next one, we go back to the traditional straight edge deployment. So this is... but we'll be using the flank attack deployment zone. Now, this is the special rule which you set up. You
went very Essex there.
Yeah.
You set up.
You set up up to 67% of your army can set up in the middle. And then you have 33% of your army can either be secretly assigned to your left flank or your right flank. And then at one point during deployment, you both reveal which flank you've decided to put your flanking units on. And then that's where they're set up. So it's quite interesting. I think it allows you to, overwhelm one flank if that's what you want to do.
Sure.
And if you get it right, potentially outmaneuver your opponent. Get it wrong, and you just end up crashing all your fast stuff into each other in one corner, which I think is interesting in and of itself. So better than open battle, I think. So it just gives a little bit more flavour in the deployment zone.
Sure.
And then last game, and obviously I need to come up with 2 more when we do the GTs because I have 5 missions. But hopefully I feel a bit more confident about what works and what doesn't work by the time we get to the GTs, that I can add 2 more in that don't that don't mess around too much. And this is sweeping engagement. So it's and then the diagonal deployment. And this is the diagonal deployment that actually ends up you being quite close. I haven't put it as close as it is. I've basically given an extra inch on the deployment zone just because of the way it works out with the 60 by 44 mats. So you're slight little bit further apart than you would in what I think is meeting engagement or something like that. It's called in the book. And so we then use the surprise battle special rule, which is it's in one of the narrative ones.
Okay.
So I have not taken the full kind of rules for the narrative missions because there's all sorts of fun stuff in there, which would be great, but not really for kind of being a semi-competitive event. But surprise battle basically means that because you're starting so close to each other, any unit that wants to declare a charge during the first battle round must pass a leadership test first. And if you fail it, you don't count as having declared a charge. So yeah, I think it allows you to start nice and close to each other, but also gets around the fact that you don't just all immediately charge in turn one. Well, it doesn't necessarily get around it, but it means that there's a slight risk that if you do pull yourself on the front line, you'll fail a couple of leadership tests and then not end up being able to charge in. So I think it still encourages some slightly cagier play than just smashing into each other. Which, when you look at meeting engagement, when you do only start like 8 or 9 inches apart, it's like I put everything on the front line and I go wham, first turn. But yeah, that's my free mission.
No open battle. You've gone for 3 different ones.
No, so we did. So obviously, I kind of know how open battle works now, so I don't really need to test that. And I think that would be quite an easy one just to add into the GT pack, probably for mission number 1 when people are just kind of early doors on Saturday morning, getting used to what they're doing. And we can just kind of drop that in, and that's nice and easy. I think whether I do it on the flat deployment or whether I do it on a diagonal, then we'll see how we go. But I think I'm pretty happy that open battle is okay to go in there as one mission, and then we'll try these 3. And if we like them, we then move on to see what kind of random 5th one would be.
You can have open battle multiple times. I think Rob's. So the events that I've been going to have been running either 2 or 3 open battle each event, interspersed with one slightly different one in there.
Yep.
Yeah, which honestly, with the variety of armies I've faced, has not felt stale at all. Personally, it's just felt more sort of getting to grips with the army that I'm playing against, as opposed to anything too particularly wild. But yeah, interesting stuff. It'll be good. Obviously, this is remind me the date, November.
2nd of November. So you're going to be one of my guinea pigs here, Ed. So what I again do after the event is I will ask everybody for as much feedback as possible. If there's any of these missions that don't work, I'd rather learn about it in like a trial RTT than I would in a 2-day event that could annoy some people. So I will, we'll see how it goes. I think they're definitely not open battle, so it should be more interesting. And we'll see what people think of them, really.
Yeah, that is interesting. Well, it'll be nice to play some slightly different missions, because I have mostly been playing open battle or Mountain Pass. God, I hate Mountain Pass because I keep playing against Richie and his dwarves, and he's a hard enough fight anyway. But when it's the dwarf mission, on top of that, it's a hard.
Yeah, because I'm not doing because they're kind of I try and make my events slightly less serious. I'm not doing like fixed maps or anything like that. So once my terrain goes down, that's kind of it for the weekend. So I'll do a little bit of shifting for the diagonal to non-diagonal deployments.
So you are doing fixed maps, but you're not doing map packs. It might vary per table, but it is sort of set per table. Yeah,
exactly. People will turn up to a table and the terrain will already be there, and they'll have all the rules on the QR code next to it, so they can understand what they do with their different pieces of terrain. But it does mean that if I go from these maps, which are fundamentally you've got a long table edge, most of them, and flip it to do Mountain Pass, all of your buildings are suddenly facing the wrong direction, which means I have to go around 14 boards changing all the terrain around. So for me, it's easier to pick deployment zones that work for the whole weekend, meaning the setup time I can do that on the Friday night, so there's no kind of rushing around in between games. Mountain Pass unfortunately is not one that makes it into my pack. I did try it in the previous event, but I encountered the very issue that I've just mentioned, in that actually it was annoying to have to go around and move all the tables, and when you're rushing to do it, that's when you can make mistakes and put terrain in slightly odd places that then doesn't work because they don't have time to think about it because you're kind of rushing between games. So yeah, but it'll be very interesting. Matt Sinclair's asked, will I still do 1 day events, because 2 day events are big ask for people with families. Very much understand that. I think from my perspective, the setup time, it takes me sort of, if I'm on my own anyway, it takes me sort of 4 hours to set one of these events up by the time I've got all the tables out and set everything up. If I'm only doing it for 1 day, then it's a huge commitment to just do it for 1 day. Whereas, because obviously if I do it for 1 day, I've then got to pack up at the end of a 9, 10, 11 hour day of Warhammer. So I spend another 4 hours in the evening setting it all down again. So for me, having 2 days just works as an organizer, because it means on the Sunday, when we've only played 2 games of Warhammer, I can set up and be back at a kind of reasonable time that doesn't just destroy me. So I don't mind it for these first trial ones, because we're all learning, we're all working out what works and what doesn't work. So and actually with Old World, because you don't have to put as much terrain on the board as you need for 40k, then there might be an argument that actually it's not as stressful as I think it's going to be, and therefore we can get away with some 1 day events. But at the moment, for next year anyway, it'll be 2 day events, and we'll see how they go.
Yeah, and you have ramped up the amount of events that you're doing as well, aren't you? Because you're
5
still doing
next
40k events as well. So between that, you've got, is it 11 events in total?
11 events in total next year, plus minus anything special that we decide to do in addition to that. So
something special. We have some plans for events, but I need to contact some more people to make that work. It's on the back burner, because you start thinking about a plan for next year in July, like, I've got loads of time, and then you blink, you're like, oh, it's September. I should probably start seeing if I can put some stuff in place. But we can do that down the line. So that is what we've got there. Is there anything else that you want to talk about for your event or for LGT? Obviously, we've got about a month or so away from that one, but is there anything that you're sort of focusing on the lead up to it?
No, I think I'd like to at least get 1 or 2 games in with the list, because I've not yet played a game in the Mortis engine, whether that's an online game or an in-person game, just to make sure I'm okay with the Mortis engine. I think I will be. I think fundamentally it's not a particularly difficult unit to use. I put it in the middle of the infantry and move it forward slowly, and I think that should just about cover me. But it would be good to at least test that. I say I've got a very good Bretonnian player here locally. I need to get another game in with him, because fundamentally he's the one that can just utterly annihilate me by flying over everything. So I think if I can deal with that, then I can manage a lot of armies outside of Bretonnia. So
what's your timescale like on Tuesday 17th? You got loads of time? We could just live stream a game. That could be...
We could stream a game.
Yeah, that might be what the next episode of Close Order becomes. We live stream a game. I don't know. Let us know if you'd like to see that.
And everyone would hear how we actually talk to each other, Ed, and just relentlessly abuse each other for...
Yeah, but that's kind of how I talk to you anyway. All that'll happen is that people will stop going, oh, God, he's really mean to Lewis, and go, oh, God, this Lewis guy's a right dickhead.
That's what happens when most people play me.
I have had to talk someone down from being like, oh, that Lewis seems a bit like, oh, and it's like, no, he's fine. I think he's just seen us interact on a 40k podcast, and like, oh, he was going a bit hard, but I did deserve it, so it's totally fine. Perfect. Well, you are a little under the weather, so I think what we're planning on doing is answering some questions and then wrapping up. But I think these questions will last us a good 10 minutes or so I don't think it'll be...
Great questions, yeah. Thank you.
We have got some great questions. Yes, thank you as well to all of the channel members who have left us podcast questions. If you want to do that and you are a member, do chuck them in at the members VIP section there. First of all, we've got a question from Dark Elf Content, more Dark Elf Content. How come it's mathematically certain you pass multiple 2+ saves every time, but when it's just a single roll, it's always a 1? Now, this is the opposite experience that I've had. Yeah, you go first then.
Oh, I was going to say as well, Ed, what we didn't say is that if you do want to come into my GTs next year and you are a member, you get 10% off.
That's true.
So if you are a member and you would like to come to Essex to play some weekends of Warhammer, please drop me a message on Discord, and as long as you're a member, you'll get 10% off. I'll send you a payment link, and you can come to one of the events completely for much less money than you would otherwise pay. But
I was worried you were going to say free there for a second. I was like, that's
I almost said free. I don't know why I said that, because it's just not true. You can't have a free ticket.
Straight up lies. Straight up lies. But yeah, perfect.
I think the reason for always failing one single 2-up roll is because the dice gods really are there to punish those very annoying people you do occasionally play who decide to roll all of their 2+ saves one at a time just to wind you up.
I love rolling 4-up saves one at a time. So coming from 40k, I've played a lot of armies like Custodes, where you've got like a 4-up invuln across the arm across the board, and the way to just dominate mentally is to roll them one at a time, not slowly, but roll them one at a time. Not even looking at the dice, just staring at your opponent, just full power stance. Legs wider than your shoulders.
Taking a penalty style.
Yeah, absolutely. And 60% of the time it works every time, baby. It's some good stuff.
I think your dice are broken if you get your 4-up 60% of the time, Ed. I think we should put some of them in the toilet.
I try and roll the same dice multiple times as much as I can, because I find that when you roll loads of dice, a lot of the time it spikes in like a weird way, but then you roll them again and you're like, oh, all those 6s have become 2s, so nobody then feels like you're taking the piss with it.
I tend to split my dice into like 3 piles on my edge of the table.
That doesn't look dodgy at all.
I'll pick the first pile up and I'll be rolling that for the start of the game. And when those dice piss me off, they go back into the corner, and I pick up the second pile. We start rolling those. When they piss me off, they go back onto the desk, and then hopefully the last set don't let me down, because they get burned if they let me down.
That's amazing. What's really funny about that is that not a superstitious person at all, as far as I can tell. You seem like far too normal to believe in superstition. But dice, let me tell you a thing about dice. Every motherfucker who plays war games has some level of dice superstition. I'm not superstitious at all. What are you talking about? I did just say that I believe if I stare my opponent in the eyes, I roll much better. So I can't even argue with myself. So I actually disagree with this take. I don't think it's more likely that you pass multiple 2-up saves, because I have played as and against Dark Elder Archons in 40k, which has a 2-up invuln, but as soon as you fail the first one, it goes away. And I failed the first time like 50% of the time. Yeah, I don't want to say every time. That would be an exaggeration, but I feel like half the time I'm just like, oh, well, sucks to be me, I guess. That was awful. I don't get much value out of repeated. So I should probably, what I'm learning here is I should buy more Opal amulets for those single-use 2-up saves, because I'd probably pass them every time. Shame I don't play High Elves, eh? That's, Redanus the Bold says, the trick to rolling 4-ups one at a time is to aim at the dice that currently show 1, 2s, or 3s, so you just re-roll the ones that aren't. I don't know if that's allowed. So we've also got Matthew Sinclair asking top 5 events around the time of the Old World that you'd like turned into a campaign book. That is something that I'm actually not equipped to answer. Have you got any thoughts on this one?
Of course I have, Ed. I wouldn't be the channel's lore expert if I didn't prepare an answer to this question in advance, because I knew you wouldn't. I knew you wouldn't bother reading the lore. So first one, I'm going to go in chronological order here. I think a War of the Beard one, which is sort of 2000 minus 1500 years BIC. That's the elves versus dwarves. Big bash. Obviously the dwarves win. Yes. So it'd be good to recreate some of that. I think then also, sad news for the dwarves, I think the Time of Woe might also be quite a good one to look at. That's sort of about minus 1500 BIC, which is when the earthquakes, volcanoes start coming along. The dwarves lose Karak Ungor, they lose Karak Varn, Dragonback Mountains, Gunbad, all to goblins or Skaven. It's when Nagash starts extracting Warpstone from his Cripple Peak that he's found near where the Tomb Kings are. And it's when the elves flee the last of their settlements in the Old World and enter the Forest of Athel Loren. So there's a huge amount going on during the Time of Woe, which I think would make a good campaign book, because it involves a lot of the races and lots of bad stuff happening to dwarves, which boo hiss. But yeah, I think it involves the undead as well, which is quite nice. I always got to get Nagash in there when you can.
Yeah.
It would be remiss of me not to mention he asked for 5, so you're settling.
He did ask for 5.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the Battle for Blackfire Pass.
Yeah,
because that's like a classic fantasy box set. They could recreate the old box set with the little terrain pieces. Be spot on. I think people would fall over themselves for that. Some Dwarves and Empire versus, or obviously old school Empire versus the Orcs and Goblins. And then going a sort of 1,000 years after the beginning of the Imperial calendar, we've got the Black Plague. I thought I'd throw a Skaven one in for you, Ed. This is when the Skaven clan Pestilens unleash one of their first plagues across the Empire. And it's
Very
when
fitting.
the plague is actually met by Frederick Van Hal. Van Hal's Dance Macabre. He raises a huge undead army from the plague victims to fight off the Skaven. Frederick is unfortunately assassinated, but he leaves the Skaven weak enough that the Emperor Count Mandred Skaven Slayer can go in and finish them off.
What's
So
he
we've
known
got- For what? Frederick?
No, Mandred.
Manfred Skaven Slayer. Killing
Yeah.
Skaven, I reckon.
That's racist. And I shan't have any of it.
He's then, I think he's, I'd have to really look at it, but I think he just dies after that. And then that's when we end up in what has been my fifth one, which is where we kind of currently are now, which is around the time of the Three Emperors. You've got Marguerite of Marienburg. Listen to the Old World Chronicles for an episode on Marienburg. The Count of Middenheim and the Grand Duchess Ottilia of Talabecland all having a fight. So there's maybe an empire-centric kind of Three Emperors thing going on there. But that's five. I was hoping someone else might have sent some in the comments, but no one else has come up with any better ones. So
I have actually got one because I had
You've
a quick
got one.
look at the timeline, and this is technically slightly in the future, but the whole Duke Maldred of Musalon, the Bretonnian,
Bretonnian vampire.
yeah. So they, him and his wife, conspire to take the throne of Bretonnia, basically. And I don't know in depth enough to say a huge amount about it. TLDR, they end up cursed. And that is the colours that I would be painting undead Bretonnians in, unless I went for like the Headless Horseman vibe. That would be, that was when I bought the models, the undead models to make Bretonnians with 3 or 4 months ago, that was very much the inspiration. So that has to be my vote for that one.
Definitely. I was very much thinking as well, it's something that I think about a lot, that it would be good to get the actual Bretonnian boxes and put like skeleton heads on them. And maybe like skeletal arms and stuff like that, so that they look like Bretonnians, but they're clearly undead.
I think I'm not made out of money. Yeah, that is a good shout though. Winslow says overrated magic items, things that feel like they're worth taking, but realistically just aren't worth the points. Also, items that are definitely overcosted but still worth it because of the niche they fill in that particular list. That's a great one. Have you got anything immediately that comes to mind?
I have one, and I think
Yeah.
this would be something that you would then run with. So I'm going to get mine in and then let you talk. So my one, it may be controversial because JTY said we should be using it more, is the
Cannons?
Dragon Slaying Sword. 50 points. But it only works if you take away the fact it has Monster Slayer.
Yep.
It only works. It does nothing other than have Monster Slayer. It's got no
Yeah.
AP. It's got no strength. It's got nothing. So you have to spend 50 points on something that only works if you're able to then get into combat with a dragon and then able to roll a 6. Because other than that, it does literally nothing whatsoever. So
I really don't like the Dragon Slaying Sword. And someone can clip that for in 3 months' time when I take it to an event and I'm like, here's my illusion caster with the Dragon Slaying Sword. Because that's the one time I can imagine running it. And even then, that doesn't feel optimal. It stops you using a great weapon. It stops you from using any other weapon. And you know what you can take as like a good, like a common magic item? So you can take that as well. There's not really much in there. And you're already spending 50 points on just monster slaying and nothing else.
Yeah.
So if I want that effect, I'm just going to play Bretonnians. Like I'm just going to play Bretonnians. If I'm worried that the event is going to be 80% dragons, cough, cough, LGT, cough, cough, maybe I just run 2, like a Duke and a Baron for Bretonnia. I go, here's my Monster Slayer, here's my Ogre Blade, chip, chap, chop. You're going to get like absolutely cane, son. Like that's probably what I go with there. Yeah, I do not like it. And there's also oh god, what is it? It's I want to say High Elves have a weapon that is Monster Slayer and Killing Blow and like just slightly better. And like that doesn't do it for me. But yeah, that's something. In the vein of weapons, most of the weapons. So, like, Sword of Battle, you're paying 60 points for +1 strength, +1 AP, Armor Bane 1, extra attacks 1. Like, I'd probably run this if it was around the 30-point mark. I'd be like, you know what? That actually turns my mid-level character into a bit of a beta. But no. Duelist Blades, 55 points for +2 attacks and AP, and it takes both of your hands. That sucks. But we've done enough magic items, magic weapons there, because there's just fucking tons of them. Armor of Destiny, it gives you a 4-up ward, but it's 70 points, and it locks you into just heavy armor.
Yeah.
You can't get full plate with it, so it's very difficult to get a 2-up save with that. You have to combine it with some other item that gives you +1 save. So I guess High Elves could do it if they wanted to. That's an option.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking if I was going to not have the stupidity on my Mortis engine, I could put that armor on my Vampire Lord and then put Talisman of Protection on the Mortis engine. But I say 70 points, which basically means I have to lose my BSB. So I was like, no, not happening. Or lose the ability for the dragon to resurrect, heal itself, resurrect models around it, or lose the Mortis engine's ability to heal twice a turn. So
a lot of stuff in there you'd rather have, that's for sure.
70 points is so much.
The one that immediately came to mind for me is, I think it's got, is it the Lux Stone? The Dawn Stone. 35 points. The bearer of the Dawn Stone may reroll any armor save rolls of a natural 1.
If you've got a 2-up save, or even a 3-up save.
If you've got it, like, I feel like if you're on a dragon, which is where this is, like, if you're on a big ridden monster, which is where the value of this really comes in, you have to buy some sort of magic armor to get you to that 2-up save anyway.
Yeah.
So you're committing a lot of points to get there. It's just like 35 points. It feels too steep for me. I've put it into a list once and I've posted that list. And the feedback I got was, that's an interesting choice. Why have you gone that? And this was because it was 3 weeks into Old World and I'd meant to click Talisman of Protection. And I instead clicked the one above it in the list. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's not going to be in there. I'm going to get a 5-up ward. And the feedback was, oh yeah, that's way better. That makes way more sense. I was confused as to why you were doing that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not feeling it. Jeffrey says, Duelist Blades would be okay if it was 50 points, so a Witch Hunter with Killing Blow could take it. That's interesting, yeah. Or like an assassin, a Skaven assassin, something like that. Yeah, I could see some use for it if you could put it on the cheaper characters and use it as a way to really turbocharge them. I assume the reason it's 55 points is because they were scared of having 2 effective hero level characters.
Yes.
Which, now we've seen the game and how it plays out, is hilarious, because even if you could give your hero level characters +2 attacks and AP1, I'm not rushing out to buy that.
No, I mean there's the killing blow is nice. So it's potentially maybe there's a white king or a white lord build there that maybe could lead into it. But they don't have a huge amount of attacks.
You know what? If that really scares me, you know what I'm going to do? Not charge the grave card. I'm going to kill everything else, mate. That's the plan.
It's generally a good rule of thumb anyway, just to leave them alone and you'll be fine.
Try and kill the other things and then crush them all together if you can. But yeah, that was all of the podcast questions there that we've got. Actually, is there anything that's definitely overcosted but still worth because of the niche they fill in a particular list? Is there anything that's coming to mind for you?
Bear with me.
I like Paymaster's Coin. And 25 points feels a little overcosted for one round of rerolls. I know people do use it. So this is, like, it's not definitely overcosted, but I feel it's 25 points is more than I'm willing to spend on it.
Yeah.
Unless I'm playing Wolves of the Sea. And then I will pay 110 points to near as makes no difference guaranteed to go first every game. I will take the unit off the board afterwards. I'll be like, yeah, 110 points, guaranteed first turn. That makes my deployment so much easier.
Yeah.
More Robot Wars content says Power Scrolls into Spell Scrolls feel steep but have a place.
Yes.
I don't use these enough. These things are incredible. And I play against Jack Allen, Morpheus, who is mentioned quite a lot. He's the Empire player who wrote the Empire list and popularized the Empire list. And then Val played the Empire list and talked about the Empire list. And now you know it as the Empire list. And you know what he does really well? He shuts down your entire army with great positioning, but also an illusion caster and 3 power scrolls and a lore familiar. it's so hard to deal with. Like, until you've been on the receiving end of it, it's ugh. Dispel scrolls are significantly worse. Yes, I agree. I'm less
They
I'm
used to
less
be
excited about
instant
dispel
dispel,
scrolls.
didn't they?
Yeah, I probably should take them more, honestly. Dispel scrolls, because there are things that just shut down a lot of the armies that I might be interested in playing. If I want to play like Nomadic War or Troll Horde, and then my opponent has, a law familiar illusion caster who's dropping, massive columns of crystal and miasmic
Yeah.
mirages. If I have the dispel scroll and I stop that line of defense, I get the charge and I win the game. So maybe I should actually treat that a little bit more.
Yeah, they very much rely on you being able to identify the game critical moment where if your opponent
Yes.
casts that spell, it ends your chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't play as much as you do, Ed, but I'm not at the point in my skill level yet where I can identify that moment. So I feel like for me, at the level I'm playing at, I'd be putting them in my list and using them at the wrong time, and then still losing those games anyway. So
I think that's an excellent way of describing it. I think that's a really good point.
Occasionally, I do make them. Very occasionally.
Yeah.
You can bookmark that.
I would say just get good.
It's a fair point. I don't play enough to get good yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
My overcosted item, if I may.
Okay. Just before you do, Matthew says he tried Idle Mork and Idle is better. I do for dispels. I do like the reroll to dispel more than the scroll typically. But there's definitely times. Hey, Jackson in chat, agree on power scroll. Yeah, I was just picking you up. I'm
Here
pretty
we
good. But yeah, so dispel scroll less than a dispel item, but I think probably want to start putting them into lists and playing around them.
Yeah.
Your overcosted item, give it a
My overcosted item, and it's one that you see in every vampire count list that takes Graveguard, is the Drakenhof banner.
Ooh.
It bumps your regen from 6 up to 5 up, but it's 50 points.
Yeah.
Still quite a big points investment for the 5 up regen. Don't know what your thoughts are.
I like a big regen on a big unit because undead, I think, want to tarp it. And yes, you're going to have great weapons. So what's likely going to happen is you're going to take a charge and you're going to lose heavily.
Yeah.
And then you're going to give ground because you're undead. And then you're going to get rezzed. And then you're going to get hit by something, but hopefully not as hard because you've been charged by something with like lance and first strike or first charge. So I really like having them with the enough durability to survive to hit that extra turn, because you're going to lose combat res pretty heavily with the regen. But if you've got the attacks with the, like a high weapon skill or the banner that gives you always hit on 3+ with your great weapons and your cleaving blow, that can do some real damage. And I think that's something to be respected. So I like the 5+ regen. But you're saying this is an item that is overpriced but should still go into the list, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I think I put it in every list. And the other one that I have not managed to put in the list yet for the vampire counts is I think it's called the Skull Staff. Again, it's 50 points, so it's a big chunk of your necromancer's allowance, but it's the one that increases his dispel range by 3 inches. So you're then dispelling at 27 inches, and again, I've played against 2 players now that have 27-inch dispels, and it's very annoying, but I just don't know where I find the points for it. If I do it, I lose the ability to res twice, and I lose any kind of ward save.
When I played the doubles event, my round 5, I was playing against the spare player, which was Rebecca, and she was playing a list very unfairly, which was vampires and empire, and both of them had the dispel focused item. So the vampire counts with dispelling at an extra 3-inch range, and the empire, I can't remember what the empire caster got. I think I managed to just mess it up with some sort of Skaven shenanigans, so it didn't matter. But looking at it, it was like, oh man, this sucks for me. This is a problem. Jethral says, the Magic Res Axe is one I always want to get in, but never find a place for. Yeah, 35 points for Magic Res, but it is over that 25 points that most champions do manage to take. So, yeah, Magic Resist 2 is where I'd start thinking about paying points for it. Magic Resist 1 just feels not impactful enough, but...
I
2
think
is good.
Spell Eater Axe might well be Magic Resistance 2.
It is, sorry, but my point was I didn't verbalize this. You could take the Obsidian Lodestone for 20 points and get the Magic Resist 1, but that just doesn't feel worthwhile.
Yeah.
There's a hot take. Peter says the Strelaz Banneroon for dwarves is worthless. Who needs a 3-inch move at the start of the game? That is fair, but it also just lets you get... Look, when you've only got 3 inches, any additional inches is important. And you're only really going to take it if you're doing the Richer Yeet, as has been coined on Square-Based. So you Vanguard forwards 3 inches, then you buff them with the pony, and you march them up in marching column 12 inches, and then you march them again 12 inches, or march them at 8 more realistically. So you can get them 24 to 27 inches. And you can also, if you give them the Strelaz rune, you can pre-game move them 3, so you still go 23 inches. But you're not in marching column. I think that's the number, but it's late and my brain is tired. But it's expensive. I can see leaving it at home and just bringing boys over toys. I want to write some more lists that are just like full horde. I'm sure there's something that I can do there that's really interesting. Rotana says, I'd love to make Scroll of Transmogrification work. Probably best on a level 2 on Big Monster. That's the one that turns the enemy into a frog, right? You just don't dispel. Let me just double check this one. 50 points, single use. Instead of trying to dispel, it casts as normal. After it's resolved, roll equal to or lower than the casting wizard's level of wizardry on a d6. If they fail, they turn into a frog. So... yeah, the problem is everyone's bringing level 4s, so it's a 1 in 3 chance to turn the level 4. And also...
It's funny, though. If you do that to a Morpheus engine, that's 450 points just gone.
Here's the thing. The problem is every start of turn, they have a 50% chance to turn back. Not every of their start of turn subphases. It just says during every start of turn subphase. So I think that's like twice per battle round, basically.
Right. Okay. And it's also important that if you're going to do that, you bring a frog model for your opponent to use instead of the wizard.
A slan. You're not putting it on the table for any other reason, so...
poor lizard men.
Yeah, poor lizard men. Matthew says, has anyone else spotted the 30-inch troll eat? I actually don't know how that works. I was going to say that we're done there, but we've got to stay live until someone explains it. So, 30-inch troll yeet. So you start off with a 6-inch move. You get the 2-inch of extra movement from the spell Ravenous Recourse.
Yep.
So that takes you up to 8 inches. You go into marching column, so you go 24 inches. Is there a way to give them Vanguard? Arcane Urgency. Oh, buddy. It is way better than you're thinking. That's a 48-inch yeet. Because you can just march again. Like, you can just straight up march again. Or you can not be in marching column, and you can go 16 inches, then 16 inches for 32-inch move, and you're still able to charge next turn. That's probably better. That's definitely one of the options available to you. But...
yeah, that's terrifying. Let's...
Fast as fuck, boy.
Yep.
I did tell you that I want to play... I don't even know if I remember. I got halfway through describing the Wolves of the Sea list. I want to play Skin Wolves and cast Cedar Shadows on them and just have them march 24 inches along with the 3 units of Huskarls. So you've got 4 units that are 24 inches away and just all of them absolutely slap. Lovely stuff. Anything else to add there?
Don't think so. That's been good fun. Thanks for the questions. Really great to see people getting stuck in and asking us stuff. It's always good.
Those were fun questions. I enjoyed those. Yeah.
Keep them coming.
As always, thank you for support. Do join the Discord down below. I do go live every Tuesday at 7:30. Every other week it is with Lewis. It looks like we might be playing a live game in 2 weeks' time. But let us know in the comments what you'd prefer, that or a normal episode of Closer Order. And we'll see you next time.